7 years ago, the Premier and her government were elected on a platform of being open, accountable and transparent. The fourth week of January 2022 will be remembered as the week that promise died. In its third term, after 7 years, the government has given up on accountability. These are the actions of dodgy, rotten governments. When governments give up on integrity, they give up on governing in your interests in favour of governing for their mates. The last week has been the darkest chapter for integrity in this state's history in 30 years. The government has lost its three most senior integrity figures, and the allegations and the call for actions as they walk out the door are damning, and they must be listened to. Yesterday, I stood before you and backed the calls from the Integrity Commissioner for an independent inquiry into the Public Service Commission. Today runs deeper. The allegations from the State Archivist paint a picture of systemic corruption within the Queensland Government and a culture of cover-ups reigning supreme. I have today written to the Premier demanding a Royal Commission, or as we know them here in Queensland, a Commission of Inquiry into corruption throughout the Queensland Government. Anything short of a Royal Commission doesn't cut it. Only a Royal Commission will get to the bottom of the corruption that is running through the government. Queenslanders will be familiar with this document. It's the Fitzgerald Report. It led to a reform in the way that government needs to be conducted in this state. The Premier has no other option after the biggest blow to our state's integrity in over 3 decades to launch another one. Queenslanders deserve a Fitzgerald Inquiry 2.0. Over to you, Fiona.
In the 3 decades that I've been in this parliament, we've never seen anything like this, with the revelations of a culture of cover-up and corruption that is coming to the fore with this state government, with the revelations about some of the most senior roles, integrity roles, independent officers who've been forced out the door, and the revelations, particularly today, from the State Archivist, the former State Archivist, and also from the Integrity Commissioner. We've never seen anything like this in the last 30 years, where you've got senior officers of the Parliament, of the institutions of Queensland, who are speaking out about how they spoke up about issues and held the government to account, and they've been forced out the door. I want to address, firstly, the issue with respect to the Integrity Commissioner of Queensland, who did hold this government to account, asking difficult and uncomfortable questions in regard to how lobbyists were operating, particularly illegal lobbyists, and their interface with the state government. We saw a situation where her office was then raided, a laptop was taken, and emails disappeared. We've seen a situation in regard to turmoil with the CCC chair, and this situation where this institution now also is without a leader. The situation with the State Archivist is something that we've been prosecuting over the last 18 months, 2 years, as we were hearing stories about the pressure that had also been brought to bear on this role. Why the State Archivist matters is this person, this role, is tasked with keeping the public record, the Public Record Act. It's important for anybody who is seeking to understand how decisions of government are made. It's important to journalists who are putting in right to information requests, and the documents that by law should be kept that form the decisions and underpin the decisions of government. And the former State Archivist also stood up to this government and asked some very difficult questions, particularly in regard to emails that this state government wanted to keep secret, that were kept on private email servers and did not want to see the light of day under the state government. We now see revelations where the state archivist stood up and tried to get legal advice about how to prosecute and to take majorly serious issues further, and was interfered with by this state government. These allegations that are now surfacing publicly from the former state archivist, in their own words, is a bombshell that can't be swept under the carpet. But this state government has sought to do that each step of the way when issues have been raised. There is a system or systemic culture of cover-up, and often it's the cover-up that will get governments, and particularly when they seek to subvert the course of law and force out some of the independent officers who are seeking to do their role under the law. This dirty, rotten government has had 7 years and have now decayed, where the decisions that they are taking are not in the interest of Queenslanders. Dodgy, rotten governments raid the offices of Integrity Commissioner and wipe laptops. Dodgy, rotten governments pressure the person in charge of keeping proper government records, who dared ask questions about the use of private emails for government business, and then push him out the door. Dirty, rotten governments rig polls to name our hospitals. Dirty, rotten governments oversee a culture where deputy premiers think they can get away with buying homes near train stations that the government hasn't built yet. Dirty, rotten governments allow youth crime to run rampant unchecked. Dirty, rotten governments ignore the needs of small businesses in the hour of need. Dirty, rotten governments rig the electoral system for their own gain. Dirty, rotten governments shut Queenslanders out of their own state with 2 hours' notice and then make no effort to get them home safely. Dirty, rotten governments parade sham inquiries into the issue of our hospitals and our building and construction watchdog. Dirty, rotten governments allow our health system to slide into crisis where Queenslanders are dying, waiting for ambulances. Dirty, rotten governments allow infrastructure projects to blow out by hundreds of millions of dollars and blame everyone else for the waste of taxpayers' money except themselves. Dirty, rotten governments hide behind commercial and confidence deals to release how it's spending taxpayers' money. Dirty, rotten governments no longer care about integrity. Dirty, rotten governments no longer govern in your best interests. When you have some of the most senior independent public servants who are speaking out about how their role was interfered with by this government, how that must make it feel for honest public servants who are trying to do their job, how desperately Queenslanders and those who serve Queenslanders need this Royal Commission to bring out the issues, that have transparency and to have the reform, because Queenslanders deserve better than dodgy, rotten governments that serve themselves and not the people of Queensland.
What specifically did you have the Commission of Inquiry talk into in relation to the stuff that's come out this week?
The way that government deals with its public service, the way that government deals with information, the way that government treats Queenslanders, the way that governments conduct themselves and the way that they treat those senior public servants in those roles. And the allegations that we're dealing with are not minor allegations. No, the Fitzgerald inquiry, and if you reflect on the Fitzgerald inquiry, it shows just how much how importance we need to place in the way that government conducts itself. And it goes through everything. It's not just an inquiry into the way the police force was run in those days. It's an inquiry into the way that government ministers conducted themselves, and anything less than that at the moment is a cop-out. This is a dark week in Queensland's history. And if the Premier values accountability and transparency as she once did, she has no other option. A half-baked inquiry where the government will do a terms of reference on its own and appoint a favourable person to try and buy some time, that ain't going to cut it with Queenslanders. This has been a damaging week, not just for the government, but for Queensland. We thought we were past this, and the revelations that have come out this week are damning. And by the way, they're not things that just have fallen out of the sky. You all know we were asking these questions during estimates. We've been pursuing this. But the bravery of these senior public servants to stand up as they're going out the door, that's the sort of stuff that's needed to bring cultural change to a government that's systemically broken.
Opposition Leader, do you think it's hypocritical of the government to see what's going on at the moment with their integrity, considering that there's a Queensland journalist on trial for not giving up his sources?
When governments give up on integrity, they give up on everyone, and they treat everybody as inferior. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a culture where the government has just given up on being the sort of government that they were elected to and the platform they were elected on. And make no mistake, innocent people become collateral damage when that occurs. And the revelations from the State Archivist today, that's a brave statement.
What do you put it down to?
In its third term, the government doesn't believe that it has to answer to Queenslanders. And there's been a lot of times that there's been questions asked about important issues, things that matter to Queensland, and Fiona raised them. Youth crime means a lot if you're the one who's had your car stolen, you can't go to work. Not having a road and being stuck in traffic, that means a lot to people. But yet every time there's an issue like that, the Premier has used the last couple of years to say that she's dealing with a pandemic. Pandemic's really important, but so is integrity. And this was once one of her platforms. And anything short of a Royal Commission today shows that she's walking away from it. And if she's got nothing to fear, she'll launch an inquiry on behalf of every single honest Queenslander, because what's happened in the last week has trashed the reputation not just of the government, but of this state, because Queenslanders thought we were better than this. We thought this was in the rear vision mirror. Anything short of Fitzgerald Inquiry 2.0 is a cop-out, and it needs to look at every element of the way that the government conducts business, because this is a dodgy, rotten government, and in its third term it's given up on being accountable to Queenslanders.
Opposition Leader, the former State Archivist said today that impartial public service is career suicide. Isn't impartial public service what Queenslanders should expect from their public service?
It's what they deserve and what they demand. And I can tell you integrity means something to me. When I named a Shadow Minister for Integrity, that wasn't mirroring what the government had. When I named a Shadow Minister for Customer Service, that wasn't mirroring what the government had. When I made a Shadow Minister for Open Data, it's because I want that shared. And you'll see that's the way I will conduct myself. And integrity matters. Transparency matters. And there's never been a Minister for Integrity in Queensland. I look forward to it. I look forward to that minister holding all of us to account. I look forward to public servants being able to go to work and be able to give advice without fear or favour. I look forward to a culture where government is willing to share what it has with Queenslanders because Queenslanders matter. And at the moment that culture's been broken.
Yesterday Stephen Miles said that the CCC was looking into these matters. They're an independent body, so that's sufficient. What do you make of those points?
Well, the Deputy Premier should use his standing to walk into the Premier's office and say that time's up. It's time for a full-blown Royal Commission. Anything short doesn't cut it. This isn't just about a couple of issues of individuals. This is about a culture that is systemically battered and broken. And anything short of Fitzgerald 2.0 is a cop-out and a cover-up. And Queenslanders deserve a lot better than that. Thanks very much.